Hello, in this video you will learn how to add a self and peer assessment to your My Courses site. Self and peer assessments are typically used for students to submit their work and have it reviewed by their peers. To create it, press the Assessments button at the top of the content area and then choose Self and Peer Assessment. Next, you'll need to give the self and peer assessment a name, then provide instructions for your students to follow in the box labeled Instructions. Beneath the Instructions box, you will see dates for submissions and evaluations. The submission dates is the period during which the students will be submitting their original work. The evaluation dates are the dates where students will be evaluating each other. These two dates cannot overlap. And once the submission date has begun, so once 4/28/2015 at 11:37 has come, you cannot come in here and edit these dates. So it's important that students submit things during the submission dates and do not wait until it's too late. If they get past the submission dates, no matter what, they cannot submit late. Once you've chosen these dates, you can determine whether or not you want students to be able to anonymously evaluate each other, as well as whether or not they can do self-evaluations of their own work, and then you can also decide whether or not you want the student who's being reviewed to see the reviews that are done on them. Lastly, you can choose how many students each student should be reviewing. So if you wanted them to each to review 3 people, you would type 3 in this box, then press Submit. The next step here is to create questions that students will submit their work to. So click on Create Question in the top left corner, and on this page type in the text of the question. Once you've typed in the question text, just press Submit, and that will add your question to this self and peer assessment for students to submit to. Now you will need to establish criteria for this question that students will use to evaluate each other's work. So click the drop down next to question 1 and click Criteria. Here you'll need to click Create Criteria, and you will have a few different options as to how students will evaluate each other. One type of criteria might be if the student used APA citations properly. So you would type that criteria in the upper box, then choose how many points can be allocated for that particular question as each student reviews each other. Then you can choose whether or not students should be able to decide how much of that point value students will get. So if you choose all or nothing, students either get 0 or 2. If you choose partial credit, students will be able to type in a number between 0 and 2 that they feel the other student that they are reviewing earned. Lastly, you can decide whether you want students to be able to type in feedback to the student they are reviewing. Once you've decided, press Submit, and this criteria will be associated with the question. If you'd like to add more criteria for students to evaluate each other on, you can continue to create criteria. Once you have added all of the criteria you want students to evaluate each other on, you can go back to the page that you added this self and peer assessment to, and you will see that it's sitting here ready for students to use. It will always show the submission dates and evaluation dates to students to make sure that they submit during the appropriate times.